information, we do allow for an accessory structure, for a rear setback to be as low as 3 feet. This is, of course, not a rear setback, this is a side. But,
I did not know that. If she would have known that, she probably would have
No,
gone 3 feet in the rear.
It does say within 3 feet of the rear lot line, if this will not adversely impact the adjacent property. Now, the adjacent property is stucco on front? Or is it
The
stucco on masonry?
Jason meaning the neighbor?
Yeah. the
It's
one
actually a
that's
stucco wall to that side, yeah.
So it's not flammable.
No.
Did that answer your question, Mr.?
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Subi? Okay. Want to give an opportunity, if there's anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this? Seeing no one? Is there anything else we should be aware of, Mr. Subi, before we deliberate? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have questions or concerns about the recommendation, or Mr. Esparza, is there anything we should be aware of from a code perspective regarding the change?
Other than, the DRB has the ability to make a finding if you believe that there's, an acceptable situation here, that you can certainly make that finding for the reduced side. That would be this side yard setback.
Thank you. Thoughts, questions from commission members?
Not at all.
Does someone want to propose with the
a
finding?
motion to approve the application 18-22 modification.
And that's with the finding that a 4-foot setback is acceptable? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, you're approved. Okay, on to agenda item number 3. This is DRB application 18-71. It's in the Bisbee Residential Historic District. Property status is unknown, so we don't know if this is identified as a contributing structure or not.
When I looked at the registry, it's such a small parcel, it's only 826 square feet. It wasn't even identified. Of course, the adjacent property is, but because this is, and I guess for probably back to the late 20s, has had this structure on there. It was never picked up in the registry because it's such a small, so I did check that. So again, it's unknown.
So this garage structure is not graded as far as we can see. The home is, but not the garage that's on the street.
Correct, yeah, so I checked, like I said, I did verify that, and there's no determination that was made for this particular structure on this small parcel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Esparza. This is a 301A Tombstone Canyon. It's an application seeking approval to remove the existing dilapidated garage structure and replace it with a new carport structure. The applicant are Joseph and Sharon Pfeiffer, and they're represented by Eric Winter. And a 300-foot notification has been sent out to related neighbors. So who's here to represent the application? You would come up here and identify yourself and, if appropriate, your address, and then give us a brief overview of what you're proposing. And just for process purposes, there may be questions commission members have for you after your presentation.
Very good.
Okay?
Hello, I'm Eric Winter. Thank you for looking through all of this. What am I, 1871 here, is that correct?
In terms of the application number, yes,
Yes.
18-70.
And you had a chance to look through that, is that correct? Do you, is there anything I need to describe different than what it says?
Well, what I would ask is if you could just give us a brief overview, although we have the written material, these meetings are recorded both video and audio, so if you can give us a brief overview, it gives folks that can't attend the meeting an opportunity still to hear what the proposal is.
All right, and in the project, there's an existing dilapidated garage structure that I don't believe has been used since, say, perhaps 1985 or something. Some neighbors who lived there before had used it up until about that time. And it's fallen apart and is been once tried, they've tried to, the owners have tried to, the Pfeiffers have tried to have it re-stabilized, but of course it's not doing very well. And my proposal is to take it down and put a carport-like roof structure. If there is a problem with that, I would propose perhaps to just rebuild it from the inside where it exists and just recreate the exact same structure up to code that is acceptable.
Okay, thank you. If you're finished with the brief presentation, I want to open it up to questions from any commissioners. Commissioner Gaffney?
We received a memorandum from Michelle Zenda
Yes.
concerning the setbacks. And I personally don't have an issue with what you proposed. However, since we typically do get sensitive about setbacks, and apparently we've got negative setbacks if this memorandum is correct, then perhaps we should not vote on this tonight, but this should be resolved before we vote on it.
Well, I think,
Commissioner Scott?
I think what he was saying is that you were gonna just rebuild the structure from the inside out. Are you saying that you're gonna take it all the way down, or you're just gonna fix it from the inside out?
I think the best solution currently with what my options are would be to build it from the inside and just make it reusable as is without this, without dispute, with reason. It's already there, it's just not usable.
I think that the question that Commissioner Gaffney is bringing up is that there is also a property line issue that was also referenced in the letter that we received. Typically, those kind of issues need to get resolved or addressed either through a survey with the city building inspector notified or provide guidance to you. So did they provide any guidance to you or suggestions based on the concerns that maybe at least one neighbor's raised about how to address this? Because we don't trump code.
Because I did look into what our options are for this case, because it's obviously a structure that is already there. It is obviously a structure that is dilapidated, unusable, yet it could provide a very usable parking space in a very tight area there. And it is, I have maps here, I did GPS surveys and what have you. I can see that there is maybe a half a foot to a foot, or maybe 1.5 feet of part of where the existing structure is that encroaches on the neighboring property. But they're recent owners of the property. This was already here. There's no desire to encroach or anything, but to make nice and usable an existing space.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, here, I went up, I looked at it, talked with Eric and Sylvia about the property. what he's basically proposing is he's not going to tear the structure down, he's just gonna fix a pre-existing structure. So at that point, we're kind of out of that. We can approve for him to just make the existing structure stable if we decide to. And then beyond that, it becomes a civil matter, adverse possession, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to explain that. You said it better.
So that's kind of what's going on here, that the application is confusing because I think that you changed your mind since you put this together.
Well, I felt that if there was any issue of that it's already there, this is, when we talked about this initially with the building inspector, Joe, it was a, how do I make this turn out for everybody without making anybody have a problem? And I want to do it in the most usable, effective, safe, and to our little canyon there, there's 5 folks or families living there in the little canyon, and this is the only thing left that hasn't been taken care of.
Thank you. Commissioner Pompey?
I was gonna say, I feel if the structure is intact and all you're doing is like for like,
Yes,
then I personally don't see an issue with it up.
I appreciate it, thank you.
If it's like for like, we
I
can't make
can
any
do
different
it, except it
modifications.
has to be to code, of course.
Working with Joel, of course, but
Yes.
like for like,
Yes,
that's the key.
yes.
Commissioner Gaff, was there another question? Or no? No? Commissioner Green? Commissioner Gaff, you're struggling with something, so I don't want to put you on the spot.
I'm wrestling with, I agree, I just don't see that it's within our jurisdiction to remove this issue. This thing is just repairing it like for like.
Yeah.
We have absolutely nothing to say about it. I'm concerned about this letter.
Can I help you with the process of for like?
Yeah,
It's a double gable
yeah,
roof
yeah.
on 3 posts
It'd be a
with
sweet little-
metal siding, metal
Yeah.
corrugated roof. Very usual structure that you would find. And I wouldn't think it would bother anybody to have it look right.
Absolutely not, and I don't take any issue with the design that was submitted.
Right.
If it was a carport.
Yes, but if
or
I
a
may-
closed garage, I have no issue either way. I just am concerned that it is not within your property, then you can do a like for like. If you're gonna build something new, then we get into setbacks and so on. If you're gonna just build like for like, then.
I would. I truly,
But we can't.
I only.
This thing that you submitted says you're gonna build a carport. So
Okay,
if we
and
approve this,
What,
It's
can
nonsense.
we look at this with the, I certainly can submit the,
Would you be willing to put it back together and resubmit it for next month exactly what you're proposing, or are you under a time constraint?
well, I don't think I'll live forever.
But I think basically what you're proposing is you're just gonna make the structure so it's not gonna fall over, right? So it's usable again? That's what you wanna do? You don't wanna
Right.
change the outside, you don't wanna change the roof, you don't,
I'll
you just wanna
reuse the
fix it,
materials
make
that are there,
it structurally
but
sound?
I do want to make I will have to take a permit to do that, of
Right.
course.
We should be working with Joel Ward.
Yes. And to all the specifications that would be required to do such.
So just to clarify, just for the commission members and for myself, What you're proposing now is not a total new build, but a repair
Yes.
and replace as needed
I
of the
would call
existing structure.
I originally called it a refurbish.
Well, we kind of have to go on it, it's either a new build, and then there's a set of codes that apply to the new build versus a remodel or repair of an existing structure, just as a starting.
Would that be reasonable for you all to consider?
Yeah, I don't think I would have a problem with that, but that's not what we ever seen get.
That's, I think, what Commissioner Scott was suggesting, us possibly delaying the decision until next month, so you could resubmit a repair and rebuild proposal versus a new build proposal, which is what we have in front of us right now. I think that's where that idea was coming from, just to clarify. Just Commissioner Gaffney.
And I don't know whether it could just be an administrative approval as well.
It might be dependent upon that.
Because it seems to me.
And just so the applicants were, the building inspector has limited authority to do approvals, what are called administrative approvals, that don't come before this commission. We get a report each month on what those are, with description and photos. But if it's something that's a simple repair or rebuild, it may not even come before us except to note that the building inspector approved it if he deems that it falls within his authority, that it doesn't raise any other issues that might involve this commission, then he'll simply review that application and making sure those issues have been addressed, then approve it. So that's what, I just want to make sure he understands what administrative approval means.
Maybe that'd be the best route.
Yeah.
In this case, it's for not looking to work.
And does that include extra fees or anything?
No, that's why if we delay making a decision, or put off making a decision to a future meeting, you're not in a position of having to pay another fee to reapply to the DRB.
That's fine.
Okay.
Because I thought I would at least put out my greatest dream, and if it didn't seem my best option, that it was very agreeable to follow what would be.
So I want to first make sure that you all have the opportunity to ask any other questions to the representative. We've got one letter expressing some concerns about the original proposal. I don't know if there's other members of the public that may want to come up and support or express concerns about the proposal. So I want to make sure they have an opportunity, if they want to speak. But at this point, are there other questions any of you have for the representative?
I guess, the only thing left for, I think that if we would clarify one more time exactly what he's proposing, if we're going to make a motion on it.
Well, we can make a motion, we can make a motion before we get to the public hearing.
Okay,
Speak.
let's do that.
I suggest that. So are there other questions for the representative at this point? And you'll have an opportunity to come back up after other people speak, and then we can make our decision about what we want to do.
Because I've never seen, like I said, this little garage is in a small canyon. I think most of you are familiar with it. And I've never seen all of our neighbors together before. So I believe we'll have some here.
Okay. Well, if you want to have a seat, and then we're just going to go members of the public, and I'll
be back.
Okay, and then you have an opportunity after that if you want to summarize
All right.
or speak to any concerns maybe that they brought up.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
See
sir.
what happens.
So we did have one letter from Michelle Zenda expressing concerns, some particular concerns about the original proposal, which we received a copy of. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this proposal that's in the public tonight? This is your opportunity to be heard. Come on up here, sir, if you would identify yourself by name and address, and then let us know what your concerns
Did you
are.
ask Michelle to speak first?
If she's here in the room, she's welcome.
She does not need to speak if she does not want to.
Correct, she doesn't have to, we already received her letter. This is this is just another opportunity for any member of the public to speak to the proposal that we're reviewing.
Anyone who has something to say?
May I speak?
Yes, but speak here, so we're recorded.
Just a second, please.
Sure.
I have that north end to the top. Now, I want to add to the conversation,
Thank you.
I don't need this microphone.
We need actually to record this for people who can't be at the meeting.
Roger that, sir.
Thank you,
And I'd
sir.
like to point out that every single resident that actually lives in that neighborhood is in this room. Some of these people drove from Phoenix to attend this. Now, we appreciate getting to address this board. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with the little cover letter. First thing I noticed was the incorrect address. This property is in fact located, this garage is on 301 Tombstone Canyon. Okay? Now, the other thing, the first thing that one might notice in this little sheet of information is, of course, there is no plot plan. There is no drawing of a piece of property. Now, you might wonder why. I had the distinct pleasure 2 years ago to speak to the son of the man that built the garage. And I only just recently figured out that that gentleman is the man that purchased the sliver. Could we turn? I would like my map up there, please. It's a little bit more detailed.
I don't have any way to project this
You
drawing.
can't project
No,
that one?
no, I rotated it for you so it's facing north.
Okay, I see it now. Okay, very good. Now, my wife and I own the parcels that are marked 341A and 353. When I married that person 16 years ago and moved in up there, she told me that nobody owned the garage. She said everybody uses it. I didn't know, and she didn't know, that in fact nobody had paid the taxes on it, and it was lying in the delinquent tax rolls. Nobody owns it. Everybody uses it. Everybody in the neighborhood up there has used it one time or another to park a bicycle or two in. I put a pallet of ready mix in there for about a year, 15 years ago. Nobody owned it. About 12 years ago, we learned somebody had bought it for back taxes. 10 years ago, Joe Pfeiffer introduced himself to us and said we could park in front of it and we could continue putting things in it. 10 years ago, there was a conflict between the owner of parcel 341A and 341B, and there was a survey done down there. I stood behind the engineer on the instrument out on the street, and I watched the property line between the two gentlemen with the instruments, and it came very close to splitting the garage down the middle. Now, there's a strong likelihood that way back in 1928, when the son was 94 years old and showed me a picture of it a year and a half ago, one might presume, and I hate to presume things, that his father bought that sliver from the city so that he could build that garage and have the peace of mind knowing that he had built the garage on property that he owned. That was a long time ago, 1928. He showed me the picture. At the time, I had no idea that this little storm was going to brew up. And he pointed out that that was the garage that his father built for the Model A that he had bought, his first car he'd ever bought with his father. Now, I'm telling you, about 10 years ago, I saw the survey between those parcels. I saw it done, and it came very close to splitting the garage in two. The property line, in fact, was approximately a foot to the left of the peak of the garage. I would say that more than a third, perhaps 2/5 of the garage belonged to the property known as 301, Michelle's property. They gave us permission to park in front of it, the Pfeiffers did. 6 years ago, I had to buy the parking lot at $225 because parking problems in the area. They'd gotten out of control. It was one of those outlaw lots that numerous people were pinging on, camping on, having their employees park on it. It was a mess. 6 years ago, Mr. Korsky, parcel 338, started parking there, and the new owners of parcel 334 parked next to their building. And that might be this gentleman back here. Were you parking there, Tom?
No, we built the parking in front.
You built the parking lot in front, that's right, the parking place in front. Now, the most recent people, the Haymore people, they routinely
Excuse me,
park.
sir.
Yes, sir.
If you could continue to address the board.
I'm sorry.
This is an
I'm sorry.
open forum here.
Okay, my apologies.
Give Commissioners time.
Now, if you go to the photographs I gave you, go to the block of 4 photographs, only car A, only in picture 1, is actually parked on its own private piece of property. Okay. That was about 28, okay. There has never been a decision made concerning anything insofar as adverse possession goes, one way or the other, with those properties. There's no record of any form of adverse possession claims on the road. I'm guessing the owner of 334 bought a sliver of property and built that garage, right? Okay. I believe before any demolition permit or construction permit is granted, a current survey should in fact be conducted and the single or multiple ownership of the building established. And when a real plan shows legal setbacks and land ownership is submitted, proceed with another building. I am of the opinion the only person that might have room to build a carport there is in fact Michelle. I have a feeling that when that thing is surveyed, there's going to be a room to build about a shed to put a bicycle in between that property line and the stairway. Now, I had a long conversation with the fire chief, 2 long conversations with the police department, and a 2-hour conversation with my lawyer over this. I see this thing as just another good old-fashioned Arizona land grab, and that's how I'll characterize it. Okay? I see the whole thing as being dangerous to the safety of the neighborhood, and I support the Firewise. I don't like people blocking my driveway. I like the idea of fire trucks getting in there. I've had the fire department, fire chief in there, and he said, yeah, you got a problem here, Mark. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else that had anything to say in regards to this? Sir, if you'd come up here, identify yourself and your address, we'd appreciate it.
Hello,
Mr. Mueller?
my name is Paul Mueller. I'm a friend of Mark. I've spent many a day in his area there where the parking spot is. I know Sylvia. I taught with Sylvia at Greenway School. I know Eric. So it's a tough thing. But the whole thing being is this man here, Paul, I believe, correct? Same, we share the same name. He mentioned when he would inform the board about this case, you need to look at the survey marks. Because there's a young lady here, Michelle, she owns half the park, she owns half the slot. The other guy, whoever Sylvia and Eric represent, the man up yonder hill, who never spends any time in Bisbee, has a vacant lot up there at the top of the stairs. They are saying, we represent this man, which in fact, the garage, which Eric is proposing to build from the within and keep it all cool. Okay, that's cool, you build that. Who gets to park there? Michelle? She owns half the property. You build this cool carport, we saw the plans. Who uses the carport? Is the carport meant for use by the, the representatives of the man who's never in Bisbee? Or does Michelle get to use that property as her parking spot too? It's half and half, divide the spot. So then becoming in this whole, this big Pandora's box. That's why I defer to Paul and give his advice to you at the beginning. Look at the survey marks and the survey line. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak in regards to this application? Ma'am, if you could come up here and identify yourself and let us know your point of view.
Hello, I'm Michelle Zenda, and I actually own the property at 301, which is parcel 334. And you've already mentioned one of my concerns about wondering if the new structure that he's proposing was going to encroach on my property. The current structure does encroach on my property, and I was given that information when I purchased the property. I also agree with the fact that it is dilapidated and it's a fire hazard. Something should be done. If it's done, I would like to request that it's done properly. The setbacks are appreciated as well as the property line is appreciated. There was also something mentioned in his proposal about removing trees, and I put that in my letter. I feel like if you remove the existing trees, that would also cause problems with erosion, and I would like to say we should honor what's already there. That has nothing to do with the structure, it's to the side of the structure, and I think that would keep the erosion from getting worse, as we know that we have monsoons here, so I don't just say those things.
Thank you for your time. So we've heard from members of the public. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak in regards to this application? Okay. If you come up here and identify yourself and your address and your point of view, we'd appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Smith, and I own the property above where this garage sits. And I contacted the Pfeiffers and asked them if we could lease or rent that property to use it for parking. Mr. Pfeiffer, he emailed me back, and we also had a phone conversation, and he said that he would be willing to lease the property to me if I would take care of all the red tape that goes along with it, like coming to the design review board and taking care of it. So that's why I'm here. Our proposal, our first thoughts were, oh yeah, this is an old, dilapidated garage that nobody has used for years and years. I've owned the property up there for over 30 years. And so, that was our thought at first was, oh, let's tear it down and build something nice, historic, that will fit into the area. I didn't realize that every one of my neighbors was going to be up in arms about just having one little space for parking while they have all the parking they need. And so, we want to renew the proposal, and it's to rebuild from the inside out and to restore it to its original condition. And that's what our new proposal will be. We will not tear the building down. We will just rebuild from the inside out and make it usable.
So you're part of the group that's representing the application, just so we're clear.
We're both on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul, Planning and Zoning, designated it as 301A as
The correct address.
a correct address. And I also have the description of the property here.
The legal description?
Yes, I do. And I can, may I show you all?
Actually, I don't think we need to see the legal description. That's really something for
Well,
the building inspector to
and a
address.
drawing of it. No matter what, please, I don't know if you're very familiar with the area, regardless of whether it's a foot or 3 feet or half of the building there, the property as described includes the public stairway there. And it is it's a triangle is 101 feet up one way, 100 feet up the other way, and 16.5 feet at the top of it, as shown in the drawings, I believe, or in the overview of it. And so there is a deed, there is a description. It is 16.5 feet. Align it how you want. It's going to either be in Mark Parsons' property or Michelle's property. It's going to, you can average it how you would like, but it's there, and it is in the deed of the property. And it's not a phantom.
Commissioner
Can
Scott,
I ask you a question, please?
Yes?
I'm looking at this photograph here. Does this fence run back? You know, when I looked at it, I didn't notice. Does the fence run along the side of the
Yeah,
shed?
that's a new fence that the last owners built to put right next to the building that's already standing. So they were already claiming their side of the
And it goes all the way,
site.
it goes all the way back to the wall.
You know what, no, it doesn't, I don't believe it goes all the way back.
Does it go the length of the shed?
Yes, it is the length of the shed. And so the previous owners, before Michelle bought the property, they're the ones that put that wall up there, that wooden fence. It's not a wall, a wooden fence. And again, if it's gonna be a big deal, just for the record, to tear the structure down, we won't tear it down. We won't tear it down. We will rebuild from the inside and restore it, and just restore it to its original condition. Okay? And again, it's not even our property. We're representing the Pfeiffers, who we have been in contact with here very recently.
So you two are just basically looking for a parking spot? Is that why you're doing this?
Yes,
It's parking, do you have any parking around there? And
Just
any
street
of those
parking.
other- I know there's a lot of parking in there, that when you go around the corner, is there, I mean, is there
No,
like
there-
room for 10 cars over there?
yeah, but that property belongs to Mark Parsons.
Does it?
Mark Parsons is unwilling to let you park over there?
I'm more than willing to let her rent it. I paid $8,000 of parking space for that piece of property.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
thank you, sir.
okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Do you need,
Well, just a moment, are there any other questions from
Does-
commission members for the applicant?
Does every,
Commissioner Conklin?
yeah, does every other resident, do they have their own parking spot?
yes, they do, except for Ken. Ken does not, and he had been using that spot for, I guess, as long as he's lived up there. But he and I had a conversation, and he told me that that Mark lets him park on his property, that he can park there anytime, and that the other owners of the property that are in that same area where Mark has his property, there's another house in there. And I think that the owners are here, and Ken told me that they allow him to park there anytime they want. We apparently are the only ones that can park anywhere there. Now we've become, I don't really understand.
So that wasn't, it was just, I was just curious is all. It has nothing to do with our decision or anything.
Right.
I was just asking a question.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but, yeah, they do.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Conklin. Commission members, any other questions for the applicants, the people representing the applicants? Thank you. You can sit
Okay,
down.
thanks.
Thank you for
Thank you.
following up. So the point, is there one other person for public comments for this issue?
Yeah.
Okay, if you come up here, please identify yourself and your address.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ken Pecorski. I'm at 301B, which is at the top of the steps. I don't know, I did have some questions, but now I guess we changed horses in the middle of the screen, it looks like. But if the city, is the city going to go by code?
Yes, always.
So nothing can be built in there? There's no rules?
Oh, well, if you're, just answer that, if you're building, you know, this will all go through Joel Ward and nothing will happen unless he lets it happen. All we can do is we can say that yes, you can proceed with working with the building inspector to bring it back to code. Our job isn't to enforce code.
Yeah.
Our job is to just push it through. We're more concerned with the aesthetics. So,
This, I don't know if you've seen it, but there isn't even a back wall to this thing. There's no building.
If there was
Commissioner Conklin?
if there was some resolution here, would you be opposed to seeing it built like for like? If it was to be structurally, if it was to be structurally sound and had the exact same look, would you be opposed to it?
Well, you could get a Model A in there or a Volkswagen, but this thing is really, it's kind of ridiculous, and it's kind of, everybody's
Is
crying.
it a yes or a no? Would you be opposed to it?
I don't think you could.
Any questions? Commissioner
Yep.
Conklin? Was there any other questions for this member of the public? Was there anything else you wanted us to be aware of?
I guess that's it, I don't know, I mean, it's kind of a personal issue here more than a building.
We should have had that before.
I
Commissioner
have
Scott,
one more question.
for this member of the public?
I don't know even know if you are the right one to ask about this, but it seems like the shed sat there unused, just kind of falling down, no one really cared about it. And then as soon as someone just wanted to make it better, now everybody suddenly cares about it? Is that,
No, I don't.
is that your take on it?
No, I don't think so.
So that was your question for this person?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank
You
you.
got your answer?
No more questions.
All right.
And the reason I'm pressing, is not because of your point of view, sir, thank you for coming up to speak, but we've heard from members of the public, right, about this property, many different points of view. It's not necessarily that one is wrong, one is right, but we need to at least take into account what's been presented to us tonight. Thank you, sir. So unless the applicants want to follow up to what this person just said, we need to close. There's one other person that wants to speak. Sir, please come up here then, identify yourself and address and what your point of view is on the application, because we need to get to a point where we can then discuss this as a commission and make a decision.
My name is Walter Steinbach, and we own the property on 341B. Now, when we first bought the property, there was Ken's car and another car parked in front of that garage, or whatever you call it. And later on, there were always 2 or 3 more cars there, and Ken could not park. That's why I gave him permission to park on my lot. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Very nice of you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So going once, going twice, for any other members of the public to speak to this, because we need to then close the open public part of this meeting to discuss as a commission. Going once, going twice. Okay, so public comment for this application is now closed. Now is for the commission to discuss. I saw Commissioner Gaffer said something, so you and then Commissioner Scott. Did you have something to say,
I
Commissioner
was going
Gaffer?
to make a motion, but Mr. Scott wants to speak to us.
So, Commissioner Scott?
I think I'd just like to point out, this looks like it's a civil matter, as far as just rehabbing the structure, anything's better than nothing. And then if it gets rehabbed and then it goes to court and someone figures out that they own it or someone else owns it, at least it gets fixed. I didn't hear from any licensed surveyors tonight. We're not a judge or jury. We're just here to try to fix the aesthetics of Bisbee. We have some people that are willing to put forth the time, money, and effort into fixing an old shed that really, who cares about anyways, is my opinion. So I'd like to put in a motion to approve application 18-71 with the amendment that they just rebuild it from the inside out, bring it back to code, leaving the existing siding and roof, and I couldn't see a problem in that, so.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, I think just given the points of view I've already heard, I'm going to do a roll call for vote. Just go in the order we have. Commissioner Gaffer, Commissioner Green, Commissioner Conklin,
Yeah.
Commissioner Sky,
Yes.
and I'm going to vote no. So this motion does not pass. So, other points of view? Commissioner Gaffer, you said you wanted to propose a motion? Well, you're welcome to propose a motion if you want.
That's fine, I'm happy
Okay. So the application, unless there's any other proposals, the application has not passed. In this case, the applicant, so they're clear, because a motion was proposed and voted on and did not pass, you would need to reapply to the DRB. And that would mean, because one of you expressed concern about fees, that would mean a new application fee as well, just so you're clear. Okay, on to the next agenda item. We're on to agenda item 4, DRB application 18-72. This is at 30 Moon Canyon. It's a contributing property number 315. And this application is seeking approval to repair and reconstruct existing ground floor concrete building and construct a new second floor wood frame addition to make a one-bedroom residence. The applications are Tug and Georgia Kellogg. Is that how you pronounce the last name, Kellogg?
Kellogg.
Oh, Kellogg, okay, Kellogg. Represented by Albert Hopper, and a 300 notification requirement has been met. So, Tug, it looks like you're representing it, so you're welcome to, since you're one of the property owners. But if you could give us a brief overview of what you're proposing, and then we can have questions for you after that.
Happy to. 4 years ago, we came to Bisbee and we purchased property at 30 Moon Canyon. And part of our whole, what we are doing is basically refurbishing and restoring the house and the outbuildings on that property. The first step was rebuilding the garage. It was one of those bunker garages, and that was the first year, plus redoing the house at 31, so it could be rental property. Then a house across the street came up for sale, and at this point, my wife and I were living in the little casita in question. And that, the little casita that we're talking about is a...
If I can interrupt for just a moment. Folks, if you need to have a conversation, please do it outside, because this room really echoes. So it's difficult for us to actually hear. Thank you. Continue.
My wife and I were living in the little 10 by 30 casita while we did our work. So we ended up totally rebuilding the house at 31 across the street, and we're living in that now. Now we're ready to go back to our original plan, and that is the casita in question. We've realized since living in it that it's set into a hillside. We've already rebuilt a retaining wall behind it. And this two-story addition gives us an additional approximately 450 square feet. I might be off by a couple. Upstairs, which would enable us to have a proper bedroom, full bath, laundry room, and a porch looking up Moon Canyon. We came here 2 years ago with the original incarnation of this. At that point, the building was going to be oriented down, looking so you could see down Tombstone Canyon. We realized we would rather turn it 180 degrees and push it to the other end of the casita. And that way we could see up Moon Canyon, which is actually, in our opinion, a better view and also more private. So since it's been 2 years and it was a total renovation, a total reorientation of the project, we were told it was appropriate to come back and totally resubmit. Part of the things that we were concerned about was this structure was, as far as we can tell, built in 1958 with questionable Bisbee-style concrete. Which means
besmirching our construction techniques in Oklahoma.
The little less concrete you can get away with, the better. The more sand you can put in there, the better. Anyway, what's going to happen is that instead of relying on the lower walls of this casita, we are going to be putting in a 2x4 structural balloon framing inside that will actually be the load bearing for the entire structure, which is very nice because it also leaves us all the room for all the utilities, electrical, and stuff hidden behind walls. The structure itself will have still the original shed sloped roof, except it'll be up on the other floor. We were also concerned about blocking the view from our other property, which is at 37, which is the blue house on the very end of the Moon Canyon extension. If you go up to the blue house, you realize this is not going to push up enough to block the view down Tombstone from that house, which is something we wanted to be very concerned about as well. So basically, we're turning this into a reasonable one-bedroom efficiency house that is probably where we'll end up staying eventually, because we're gradually consolidating back over on 30. We're basically coming back and saying, we got sidetracked for 2 years, and now it's time to go back to the original plan. And you can see we're trying to keep it as close to original as possible, or at least the original style. We're using hardy board siding on top. We always, whenever we rebuild one of these houses, we put a metal roof on it. We use steel windows, double hung, double pane, because we had quite a scare there 2 years ago on the fire that was up Star, because they came within 100 feet of the studio on top of the hill before the water bomber stopped it. So we are definitely into getting that extra 15 minutes is all it takes to save a house, because by then the fire's moved on. So that's why we're using these sorts of materials. The bottom is going to be re-stuccoed. We did get a little jump ahead of ourselves here. It was a miscommunication. I do apologize for that. I told a fellow that we have that we know that works with us that it'd be nice if the roof was off by the end of December. And he tore the roof off already. So it's basically a shell at this point. But we're happy to do whatever it takes to make it right. I've got a good relationship with Joe. But the main question is, does this meet your specifications? Is it in keeping with the aesthetics of the area? And does it not influence the neighbors? And basically, I am my own neighbor up there. But even so, there are.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant, commissioners? Commissioner Scott?
I don't really have any questions. I think the plans are pretty clear. I know the house, I know the area, you know, and all the surrounding houses. It looks like they're blending it in pretty well with what's already there. I like the plans, and it all looks pretty consistent. So that's about all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Other questions or comments? Actually, I have a question. Just one question I didn't notice until this. You're proposing awning windows on one side. Was there a particular reason for that?
Awning windows are probably on the back side. Excuse me, I got to wait. Are they the ones that I'm going through the page to try and find?
Southeast elevation.
Said northwest elevation.
Southeast elevation. Southeast.
What you have to realize is those windows are going to be barely peeking over. They're more like clerestory windows, high in the bedroom that's upstairs.
So they would be facing up against the reinforced concrete wall that you just put in behind this structure?
Yeah, they're just for light.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they were more visible to the public, I'd have a concern knowing, having gone to the site and knowing where these will be, they'll be virtually invisible to anyone, except maybe if you're at the old, what was it, horse barn or whatever, the structure above.
Horse barn studio.
Right, then you have to look down, so that's not a concern for me then. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No? Someone want to propose a motion?
I'll propose a motion to approve DRB application 18-22.
Is there a second?
Wait a
Second.
second.
72.
72.
Oh, 72, I'm sorry, I've been up since 4:30.
I second that motion.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good luck with your continued project.
Thank you very much.
Okay, on to our next application. This is DRB application 18-73. It's in the residential historic district. It's a non-contributing property, number 843. This is at 740 Tombstone Canyon, and this application is seeking approval to remove metal roofing from a garage door and parapet and replace with rough sawn redwood, replace all aluminum siding and single pane windows with wooden single double hung dual pane grid windows, remove 3 aluminum windows and install wooden siding to match existing siding over window openings. Also, they're proposing to remove the slab door and stucco over that door opening, install a new panel door in the window opening on the back wall of the home, and the applicant is Stephen Smelser. And are you the applicant? Thank you, sir. If you could just give us a brief overview beyond what I just described, and then commissioners may have questions.
Okay, I think there's photos included, unfortunately my printer ran out of color, so they're in black and white.
We get them all the time.
Okay. The parapet and the garage door are currently a white metal roofing. They've been painted, I don't know, 100 times. And I'd like to replace that with I'd like that to look more like a carriage door. I own Moore's Grocery, and I did the same thing down there. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was all rusty metal, and they took that off and put redwood siding instead.
We talking about this picture?
Correct.
Thank you.
We're currently re-roofing, and we had a permit to put gray metal roofing over the existing white roofing, but my preference would be to wood that up so it has a little more character to it. The windows I'd like to replace were put in, I don't know when, but they're aluminum, and they're sliding windows, and they're non-conforming with the historical district. And that's what I'd like to replace those. Everything will be, double pane, written with grid, and a lot more appealing than what they look now. The panel door, once again, it's a white, I don't know if you're, it's a metal, flat metal door, no character whatsoever. I'd like to replace that with a windowed, grid window panel door. On the casita, all the windows in there are single pane, and I'd like to update that to double pane. And it's going to be like and same, they're all grid, same size, same everything, just better, a little bit better.
More efficient.
Correct. The casita door is a plywood door with a canvas cover, and I'd like to go to a real door there. It would be window grid panel door. There's 2 other aluminum windows on the front of the home, and I don't know if your drawing shows, I've etched them out. Those are the aluminum ones.
Right. Yes.
And I would just like to remove those and continue. There's wood siding around that corner and around the front. I would like to just fill that in with wood siding instead of the windows.
So there would just be 3 windows there instead of 5?
Correct. Okay. And then there's a plywood door. We could, the same drawing where the windows are etched out up on the upper right-hand corner. There's a plywood door, flat panel once again. That door I would like to remove, and we'll stucco that closure, and then move the door around the right-hand side of the building where you don't see it from the street. I think it's kind of confusing when you have 2 front doors, people don't know what door to come to, and things of that nature.
Well, they're not unheard of in Old Bisbee, but usually those are multiple residences or multiple rolling rentals or something.
Right. So that door, That would be, once again, a glass grid panel door. Not really visible from the street. But we have a casita out back, and that would allow the casita to utilize the laundry in the main house when we have house guests. And it just would flow a lot better.
So is there, that was your presentation or your overview for us?
I believe so. Do we need permission for color?
No, we have regular color. Thank goodness indeed. So I think there are some questions for you, though. If you could remain, Commissioner Sky has a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you're gonna take the doors. You just want to stucco that over?
Yes, let's stucco the existing door, but come around the right-hand corner,
Put another door in.
facing the casita.
And you aren't considering a window at all there?
Well, there's a window there now. There's actually two windows, they're quite large. And are you talking about on the casita or on the main house?
Talking about
Main
the
house.
the main house.
This one right here.
The flat panel door, I'm sorry, those are so poor.
No, you're fine.
Feel free to look at my
Yeah, what,
color one.
yeah,
It's
could I,
this right here.
Right.
could I
That
ask?
door will come around the right-hand corner.
No, I get that, but I'm just wondering, is there a reason why you don't want to put a window in there? What is this room?
It's a laundry room,
Is this a laundry room?
and it has, well, currently two windows on the end of it, on the casita end.
This side.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just thought aesthetically it might look good to have one. That's my personal preference. That's why I was asking. Then I had one more question about, the door here. So you kind of just explained what kind of door you want to put there, but have you like looked at one at Home Depot or Lowe's or something? You know where you can get it? Do you have a picture of it, or
No, it's the cross buck.
yeah, so the door's kind of like this?
With great window,
But
yes.
but you haven't bought it yet?
Yeah,
Oh, you have bought it?
yeah, I'm hoping that everything's good.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, I didn't see any pictures of it in here.
Was it a night light? They call it a night light?
Correct.
Okay.
So that answer your question?
Yeah,
Commissioner
that's
Sky?
all the questions that I have. for
So
right
that
now.
there's a 9-light, which is an arts and crafts style door that goes into the door. Okay. Other questions or comments, Commissioner Gaffney?
I'm going to put my Firewise hat on now. The concern I have, Steve, and I know this is probably anathema to you because you're a very skilled worker, but your choice of material.
Could you speak up, please?
Your choice of materials, of going with redwood instead of, going with redwood instead of metal for the garage, is that right?
That's what I'd like to do, is use redwood.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem aesthetically, I just would caution that you might want to reconsider using something that was less vinyl.
Firewise,
Yeah, that's I'm putting my Firewise hat on.
I'm one of your captains, co-captains.
I know,
in my district.
I know.
The other thing that we can do is put a retardant we used to use on wood shingles, and the retardant will aid that tremendously. I did remove a tree.
Okay, if you would just speak into the microphone.
I did remove a tree that was adjacent
Yeah, the
to
Italian
all that.
cypress.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
and it just scared me to death. That's a torch waiting to go off, you know. So I think in view of all the gravel that's in front and cement, and we just completed a metal roof instead of a flat tarred roof. So, and I've removed so much brush and debris out from behind that building. I feel a lot safer than what I did originally. But the redwood, it's a small portion in comparison, but the retardant that you can put on also adds to its fireability.
Yeah, I say I don't have an issue as far as the aesthetics of the idea, I just throw these things, and I will continue to throw these things out to make people aware.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't apply to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm concerned for Bisbee Firewise.
I think many of us are. So does that address your concern or question?
Thank you.
Other commissioners, any questions or comments on the application for the applicant while he's here? No? You're welcome to sit down. Was there anyone in the public that wanted to speak to the application? No? There are two hardy souls that remain. Okay, well then, the period of any public comment on is closed. Now is for us to discuss concerns, thoughts. This is a pretty comprehensive project.
I was there this morning. It's real good.
It's gotta be a huge improvement.
Yeah. It was a long ways. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, on the microphone. Commissioner Conklin, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application 1873 as is.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Gaffer seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? You're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Smelser.
for your good work. Okay, believe it or not, we've gotten to the staff comments administrative approval portion of our agenda. Mr. Esparza has included the pictures of those projects that were approved through administrative approval, and then he has updates for us on some items that we've requested be recurring on our agenda. Mr. Esparza?
I had a conversation as recent as this morning with Mr. Tynes, and he's telling me that.
And this is sort of all clear, this is the building that was proposed for demolition on Upper Tombstone. We denied the demolition application, and require that every month we get an update on the work being done to stabilize this property.
And for the recording, yes, application 18-59-805 Tombstone Canyon. So Mr. Tynes has reported back to me that he has completed, he has received payment from a job that he's done, and now he can allocate those funds toward working on the roof. He said he's brought some materials on site. I didn't go out there because after talking to him, he said there's really nothing that I would see that would be any sort of improvement. But what his plan is to focus on securing those areas of the roof that are exposed to the elements. So it's not like completely taking the roof off. He's going to repair the areas that are lacking, if that makes sense.
Did he clarify how he plans to do that, with what material, for example?
Yeah, he's trying to preserve the authentic look of the roof now, but he says he will close up the roof so it's not leaking. He is going to remove the front porch, the sagging porch, that'll be taken off, and then to shore up those areas and do the roof work that needs to be done to. And he talked about somehow recycling some of the materials that are on the sagging porch. So again, I just wanted to make sure I understood what he was saying, but he basically, yeah, this is not a complete tear down of the existing roof, but a repair of the areas that are exposed, allowing water penetration into the structure. So,
And did he give a proposed timeline for when he's going to do this? Because that's what's of greatest concern to
yes.
the neighbors and as well to.
And I asked him, so his intention is to start to be in Bisbee on Monday, December 10th, and to complete that roof closure by Christmas. And so that's essentially what he's saying. And again, just to be clear, I just want to make sure that nobody is intending to see a complete tear down of the roof and then a re-roof, but he's planning to fix those areas that need to be fixed.
Commissioner Sky?
Are you talking about Mr. Tynes or his new partner?
Well, yeah, and
Who are
Mr.
you
Tynes,
talking to?
I talked to Mr. Tynes. Now, I'm guessing that he's going to be with the gentleman, that I can't even recall his name, the contractor, that member was with him. But he said they'll be starting on December 10th. So I told him that, I'll coordinate with him to be out there with Joe so that we're all on the same page and say, before you start this, let's make sure, we understand what the code requires and what's acceptable, because I just want to make sure we don't go down a path and, he's doing something that's not quite exactly what the board's looking for. But I think it'd be really smart to meet him out at the house, me and Joe to be there, so we can have, make sure the game plan is clear of what he's doing.
I think that's a very good idea. Some commission members may have noticed the roof in the current state of disintegration that it's in exposes what was originally wood shingled roof.
Yes.
Some asphalt or other material that would have been on top of that. So I would ask that you and Mr. Ward be very clear as to what a repair means to a roof that shows several different types of material on the disintegrating roof. So you're clear as to what he's repairing it with, and that it's building material that is going to be code for a current roof in Old Bisbee. I mean, for example, especially our fireworks presentation, I would certainly have concern if we went back out there and we saw wood shingles replacing some of the areas that there's now gaps and just open air down into the structure. But it sounds like it's not clear what material he's proposing to do this repair. And that repair work, people stop me if you want, that repair work would have to be extensive, seeing the condition of the existing roof. It's not small areas, it's major portions of the roof that require repair. So just in my temporary chair role and as a member of this commission, I would just ask that you and Mr. Ward are there before the work proceeds, and that you're clear with them what code requires for the scope of work that needs to be done to stabilize that roof.
No, understood. And I will follow up tomorrow. I'll make sure I call tomorrow, and that way we're on the same page and just say, look, when you arrive in town, we'll try to identify a time slot so that we can be available and we can meet with him before he starts the work. And again, he may have the contractor there, whoever's going to help him. That way everyone's together and understands what needs to get done.
Awesome.
Okay. And again, just to Mr. Esparza and Mr. Ward, you know that they've got our full support. We're in agreement that time is of the essence with stabilizing the structure, and that whatever's going to be done to the roof needs to be code and be a material that's appropriate for the scope of work that's being proposed. I just want to make sure that neither you or Joe feel like you're having to second guess us in terms of what our intent is. We don't want to get in the way of work, but we want to make sure this work is being done properly to code and accomplishes what we wanted to see accomplished, which is to at least stabilize this structure. Since we agreed not to approve the demolition, but that was with the intention of the structure would get stabilized in as timely a period as possible. So, am I reflecting what we agreed to previously?
Agreed.
And what we want to see happen in the short term? Just want to make sure I'm not.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Okay.
Can I ask
Just okay.
Can I ask a question?
And there's a question from a member of the public. If you'd come up here and identify yourself, not that we don't know who you are, but just for the record.
I thought I was going to be fine without having to say anything. Tom Slusser, 60 Alpha. I was just wondering if you could explain, because I'm unsure of this, is that it would meet building code, say, to put a metal roof on this. But I don't know if that would meet what the design review board would want to put on this house with what is there existing. So I don't know if Joel and you are sure exactly what type you're looking for. I mean,
Just to respond, Mr. Slusser, our goal when we got the demolition application that was initiated by the city of Bisbee, by the city manager, when we denied that demolition application, it was with the understanding and intention that, which we communicated to the owner at that meeting, one, that we would get monthly updates from the employee's representative, communicated through our staff liaison, so we could see concrete, real actions being taken to stabilize the structure. We weren't asking to get the total remodel plan in place right away, because the first order of business was to stabilize the structure with a roof filled with holes, sagging porch, and easy access from the first floor windows for spotters. So that was our initial intention, was we need to see the structure stabilized, and then, when it's appropriate, see a plan come forward to design review board if required. I think it probably will be required in the scope of work, but then generate an application to DRB at the point that the final work, final roofing material, any exterior side, exterior windows.
so they're not doing a final roofing on there now. They're not going to put a final. I mean, I think most of us are in agreement that that roof is shot, and to stabilize it and put something on there is pretty much a finished product. I mean, unless you're just gonna.
We even proposed or suggested at that meeting that even a tarp being put on as a temporary basis over the roof so continued leakage would not occur, which would only further compromise the interior of the structure, which was surprisingly intact, given the years of neglect that have occurred. Even that would be a step towards stabilizing the structure. We didn't intend for the tarp to be a permanent feature.
I understand. I just didn't want them to put on, say, a metal roofing, and then, you know, the design review board not have their input on whether the metal roofing was appropriate for that house.
We didn't give full approval
Okay, I just
for
want to make
carte
sure.
blanche.
Okay, that's all. Sorry.
Okay, but we answered your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slesser. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Esparza about 805 Tombstone? No?
I just asked that you, if you could, if it would be appropriate, if you could give me a call, I'd like to attend that meeting down there at the house. And just so I get like a real understanding, because what you just told me doesn't tell me anything, really. I mean, you're saying they're trying to patch a roof. I agree with Mr. Slusher. Patch a roof that cannot be patched. And I would like to just hear this for myself, if that's appropriate. I don't know if it is or it
We've
isn't.
had design review board members, be it properties.
I'd like to,
updates.
Yeah, as long as we don't have a quorum out there, okay, so
You
we
want
just
to-
gotta.
But Mr. Scott, Commissioner Scott, I can ask, if you're going to attend with them, if you could also report back to us at our next meeting.
Yes.
At this point that we have the administrative approval report, I mean, I think you can serve as a representative for us, so that the applicant, if he's there, along with the county staff liaison and the city building inspector, he can know that he's getting representation from all our points of view. If he has any questions or concerns about what's being asked of him, or what our concerns are. So please do represent what our concerns are as a member and representative of this commission.
And we're on, just to be clear, we're on month 3 now? This is the 3rd month?
It's the 2nd month of updates. So
Second month of updates.
3 months ago, 3 months ago,
Okay.
3 meetings ago, he presented to us, or it was there for the demolition application. which we
Okay,
rejected.
yeah, okay,
We
yes.
received an update in November. This is our 2nd update in December. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does make sense. It doesn't seem like we're moving.
It would be nice to see some actual progress, so, I don't know, I think the board's starting to get frustrated. I don't know if I speak for everybody.
Well, you at least speak for yourself, but I would say that, just keep in mind that the city did initiate a demolition application on this project. We denied it with conditions. So that opens the door, I would think, to a possible resubmission of a demolition application if significant work is not enacted to secure the structure.
And that's
up to the city manager of the city to decide if they want to do that. We can at least report back to them if it's met our expectations or not.
And that's another thing that I think needs to be addressed, is that I don't think that we should allow the city to put us in this position again, because literally we have no power over this. And then every meeting we have to keep drone striking, and these people aren't even here to talk to. So we're really just talking about, we get a report from Paul. I mean, if Joe Ward was here, because obviously Joe Ward has a better working knowledge of the construction area. So in the future, I'd like to recommend that, we try to stray away from being put in this position again.
Would you like to put this as an agenda item for us to discuss at a
Yes.
future meeting? And what would that agenda item be? Demolition process or demolition
Yes.
review?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the deadline that we gave, Tynes, Mr. Tynes?
We didn't give a deadline, but we gave a reporting requirement. So we indicated that he needed to report via our staff liaison, Mr. Esparza, on a monthly
And
basis.
as long as we start seeing the monthly progress, we would deny the demolition.
We
We
denied it, we
continue.
denied it with the understanding that he would have to report monthly, take concrete, real steps to stabilize the structure.
So far, nothing has been
They
done.
cleared the area, something's been done. They cleared the overgrown brush, they secured the entry-level windows that people could get in. and that was it. So this is a next step of proposing in December that they'll do some roof repair, but it's unclear, based on some of you got more expertise than I do, how the roof could be repaired in the condition that it's in. But I think if we leave that to the expertise of our building inspector and county staff liaison, they can certainly convey to him what repair needs to look like for a job of that scope.
Yeah, and I agree, I believe that it'll go a long way to have the building inspector there as well as a DRB board member. That way, you know, whatever he's envisioning for this repair, it might not even be acceptable. So that way, when he walks away or as he proceeds during that week, that he'll have a better understanding what he needs to do.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Sparks.
during that meeting, assuming Mr. Scott's gonna show up, I can guarantee that, Joel should be there.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's my intention, yeah, my intention.
100%. And then what I think I'm getting is that, at what point is enough on it? When do we say, hey, Mr. Tynes, you haven't fulfilled your obligation?
We can, I'd say, given that something's been proposed that's specific to stabilize the structure, I would suggest when we get our monthly update, because we require a monthly update on this, that next month, if you want to propose something specific.
It's not what I want. I want to see that house redone. I don't want to see it torn down. I think
Sure,
I'd love to see the structure intact, but I think Mr. Tynes should keep it in the bargain.
So, just keep in mind, our bargain right now, so to speak, is monthly updates, concrete steps to stabilize the structure. That was our basis to deny the demolition application. So in other words, the applicant, the owner, made clear promises to initiate work on the structure. So if we don't think those are sufficient, then we can revisit our decision, right? In one of the monthly updates that we'll continue to get from Mr. Sparks.
And when we were talking about the monthly updates, I was under the assumption, which I could be way off base, that he was actually going to attend these meetings and speak to us.
I don't think we specified that.
Did we not?
No, we just, the board just asked that staff come back with some progress reports. I mean, at some point, we can say, hey, we'd like to see you, Mr. Tynes,
So we
but.
could, again, we could at a future meeting
Well, let's
require
request that he's at the next meeting.
And that was a thing I was going to ask Paul, and obviously if I'm at the next meeting, I'm going to ask him to attend, because I don't think it's fair that we're all sitting here addressing his issues for him and he's not here. Like, so we all just work for Mr. Tynes now, and he doesn't have to
So
show
board
up.
members, are you in agreement that we want to have the owner or his representative, or just the owner?
I'd love to see Mr. Tynes.
Either one would be sufficient.
He's the one who made the agreement. That'd be great.
But his representative is the one that's doing the work, so either both of them or one of them,
Okay.
but basically empty chairs is not doing it for me.
So if there's agreement, we can request that he attend our next meeting. I can make a proposal, a motion that we have Mr. Tynes attend the next meeting to update us on both the work done to date and any future work proposed.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, but your nay is recorded for the record. So we will be asked to be at our next DRB meeting with an update. This is usually not a period for public input. I'm sorry.
That's fine if I may say something, because.
Well, then that's public input.
Oh.
So if you can be brief, you need to say it up here so we get it on the record. So for folks who aren't here, they can know what transpired at the meeting and all of its.
And please restate your name and your address.
Okay, my name is Sylvia Smith, and my address is 301A Tombstone Canyon. And I came back because I wasn't clear on what actually went down this evening in front of this board. I was under the impression that this is a panel that voted, right? And I thought there were 3 yays.
There were 3, actually, so this is, you're not speaking to the item we're talking about right now, which has to do with another building on Tombstone Canyon. You're talking about your application?
Yes,
that we reviewed?
yes.
So just to clarify.
Okay, yes, I apologize.
Yeah, because we thought you were speaking to the item that's on
Oh,
the agenda right now.
No.
We did
We're
vote.
talking about application 18-71.
Thank you. So, Mr. Sparser can clarify, but we did vote on the application, a motion was proposed, the motion did not pass, so there were 3 nays.
Oh, so there were 3 days.
There were 3 nays and 2 ayes.
Okay.
So it did not pass,
Okay.
that's why it indicated afterwards, as you and the other gentleman with you,
Yes.
that meant because we actually voted on a motion,
Right.
and it did not pass, that you would have to resubmit an application with an application fee.
So that is the process and procedure of what happens after you do have a vote?
If we have a vote, if something comes to a vote and we vote on it
Uh-huh.
and it's denied, we do not approve the motion, or in this case, the application as submitted, that essentially ends that application.
Okay,
And you would have to submit a new application with whatever that proposal would be.
okay,
And that would include another application fee to the city of Bisbee for
okay,
us to review the new proposal.
okay, I understand that. So my other question was, why was it denied? I didn't quite understand.
I think we're really.
Yeah, we need to not, if you want to have a discussion with staff, we shouldn't do this now, it's not part of the agenda item, so
Yeah.
we shouldn't continue the discussion, what do you have?
Mr. Esparza.
Yeah.
So we need to continue with the agenda, but certainly Mr. Esparza can communicate to you or speak with you, or we can speak with you later
Oh, okay,
about
yeah.
the basis for the denial.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to understand
Sure.
why it was denied, because I didn't quite understand everything that came down, besides that there were a group of people that were,
Well, again, I
But
think
anyway,
we
okay,
need to
yeah.
finish
All
up
right,
on
well-
what's on the agenda and posted and published, but we can certainly give you more information about what happened and that denial, what that means.
sure, and do I contact you?
Yes,
Oh,
why don't you contact me, I'd be happy to talk to you tomorrow morning, if you want to come in, I'd be happy to talk to you,
Well, I'm working tomorrow morning, so, but,
you can call me, do you want to call I'll speak to you on the phone.
yes, I just want to understand more of what
Okay,
actually came down tonight.
Paul will call you back. Just call him and leave a message tomorrow, and he'll give you a call.
okay,
Okay, great.
all right.
And so that I understand this clearly, we can reapply, right?
Yes.
Yes.
With
You
the
can
new proposal?
reapply as many times as you'd like.
Well, all right, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, have a good night.
You too, thanks.
So getting back to the agenda, I think we geared the application 18-59 to death in terms of what we agreed.
On time.
So now on to do the application 18-70. Mr. Esparza for an update?
Yeah, and that was an administrative approval, Mr. Ward had granted that for, and again, hopefully that's a good explanation, remove glue down carpet on porch floors and install waterproof torch down porch floor protector, if that makes sense. Those of you that
It
didn't start.
doesn't have anything to do with the aesthetics of the house or
No.
anything like that, so it really should have never even been.
Yeah, you can't
before us.
see,
Yeah,
look at the views of the district, see.
and I think the idea was because it's in the district and they were doing work to a home, and that's why it was done administratively. I mean, it's just a report, and you guys would have never seen it, but again, we're trying to report to you all the applications that come through the office.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Keep those $25 checks.
So does that complete the administrative
That
approval staff
does.
updates? Thank you. We're on to future agenda items. We already have one that's been proposed, which is revisiting our demolition process review with the city of Bisbee.
Oh, I think that's,
Yes. I believe we have one more person that wants to speak on this agenda item, the Pike.
All
Or
I-
not Pike,
No, well,
the
actually,
Tombstone Canyon House.
I will, are you approving Mr. Pike? I will send him
It
an
was
email.
already approved administratively through the city of Bisbee.
Okay, I will let him know.
If you want to,
Yeah.
generally during this
State your name
period,
and your address, please.
yeah, but generally during this period, we actually don't bring in public input. This is just a courtesy notification to the commission of what the city of Bisbee building inspector has approved. That does not have to come before our commission.
I think she kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Okay, so your question is?
Yeah, my name is Doris Turner, and I'm reporting back to the owners at 803 Tombstone Canyon, and that's why I'm actually
Oh.
sitting here
So again, this is,
following the update. And my request would be, when you request for either Mr. Tynes or a representative to be present, can they bring something in writing, what had been done?
Yes. The
Can
more
who-
documentation, the better.
can who bring what in writing? The owner
No, Mr. Tynes, the owner, or his architect from Sierra Vista, whoever will show up at the next meeting.
You're asking if they bring something in writing about what they're proposing going forward, or just for working on the roof?
What they have done, what they have done. I mean, I'm driving by, you know, not every day, but every so often. I saw that the lawn was mowed, I saw that the windows were boarded up, and I saw that the roof is one huge hole. So I just want to report back to my owners, Ms. Joan and Jean and Lowell Braxton, who own 803 Tombstone Canyon, what the progress is. We all were really concerned about 805 Tombstone Canyon.
So what you reflected that you observed has been done is all that we're aware of, or been notified by the owner, Mr. Time, has been done. The lawn being mowed, extraneous shrubbery, overgrown shrubbery being removed, the first floor of the building being secured, so people cannot get in and squat. And that's all that has been reported to us that's been done to date. And at tonight's meeting, as Mr. Esparza indicated, they're now proposing to repair the roof and take out part of the sagging porch in front as a next step, but we have concerns about the repair proposal, and that's why we're going to have a commission member present, as well as the staff liaison to our commission and the city building inspector to clarify with the owner what's the scope of repair and what will the materials be to repair this roof.
So,
Oh,
yeah, I'll report back to Braxton's what was going on, and we'll see what happens next month.
And Mr. Esparza?
I just wanted to mention, Ms. Turner, there was a public records request. I believe it might have been coming from the party you represent, but I did provide a staff memo. If you recall, last month you had a staff memo when I talked about the mowing and the securing the windows. So someone made a public records request, and I did submit that to the city clerk. Pictures, my memo. So just for the record, that was requested and was submitted.
And maybe that's what seemed unclear to you today. We have no staff memo updating us on progress this month, because nothing's happened since the clearing and the building being secured.
And that's the only reason why I'm here, is just to report the next steps.
For Mr. Tynes and his associate.
No, for
the
Mr.
owners of
for
the
Braxton. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So future agenda items, back to our agenda. Any other agenda items you want to propose for future meeting? No? Would someone like to propose that we adjourn this meeting?
Yes, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
All right.
Our meeting is adjourned.
Thank God.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, we had one issue with one application that was
It's not doing this.
I know he's not. And he's not here to get his tongue lashing every morning, or else some stuff might be getting done.